Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. It's our third video this morning.
Well, because Mike is on the upswing, and some days we're dry and some days we're not. So we're just trying to work with that pendulum energy we got.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and tangents, like we took a day off, and I think we only take maybe 4 or 5 days off a year yesterday. And, you know, now it's just flowing. And so sometimes we need to calm and still, and then we can find our direction. And we want to thank our Patreons for you guys supporting us. We couldn't do it without you guys. Much love to every single one of you beautiful souls that are helping us over on the Patreon family.
Definitely thank you so much. And for those of you checking in on us yesterday, you know who you are.
Yes, we adore you guys, and it is a blessing. So we're still talking about Göbekli Tepe, which is this 11,000-ish, they say, year-old site that what we've gotten from the guides is it's one of the very, very first cities after the destruction of the Younger Dryas period. And again, this is in the Fertile Crescent, which, gosh, it sticks out from me from high school. You know, it was part of our studies that just stuck in my head, Fertile Crescent. And now I know why, because we're talking all about, you know, this whole control matrix and the history that we're given on this planet. This is a fascinating site. Again, the Younger Dryas event wiped out much of the life on the planet. It was huge. It was enormous. And yet there were survivors here in the mountainous areas of Anatolia. Tens of thousands of people could go down into these caves that are in some places 10 and 12 stories deep that we know of, maybe even deeper. Do you know, and we've talked about this in past videos, that there's actually an interlinking cave system that extends from this area all the way up to the UK? Kid you not. Yes. Of course, we are so familiar with the legends of Agartha and all the inner earth civilizations. But after the destruction of the Younger Dryas extinction event, humans came out and they started to make their way back down into lower altitudes where the soil was more conducive to, again, farming and raising animals. And thus we started to, again, settle in these areas. But it was a resettling. And Göbekli Tepe was one of the first cities that appeared after this destructive event. Interesting to see all the symbolism. And, you know, these, in case you can't make them out, these look like those ominous little mani purses that these extraterrestrial or hybrid beings carry around on them. As you see 3 of these mani purses, and then you see these beings that look like birds here. This one circle, according to some sources, might be a human head. What's really going on here? As you have an artist's depiction of them coming together and creating Göbekli Tepe. There's a better picture. These do look like those mani purses, do they not? With these bird-headed beings? What could be going on here? Well, this is a translation, and I do not know how accurate it is. And it's interesting as they're talking about Indra. Indra is a Hindu, quote-unquote, god. Now, Indra is recognized as a class of gods which we would call, you know, quite openly, like of a lower level than, say, Shiva and, say, Vishnu and Lakshmi. Indra is a more earthly god, so to speak. And in fact, when we talk about Indra, it's a position. And many people won't understand that as well. It's a position. It's actually an office, so to speak. And there are different Indras in different ages, but that's a totally different topic for another video. But here you see it says Indra as, for Jupiter below it, Kara Vira, the action of virility. Indra Ati Mi is, Jupiter delivering synchrony, Ra Kundalini Ra Az, granting Kundalini for granting Adi Ra Ri Az Asu, delivering, granting for dwindling life. Interesting. So what I get from these stelae is exactly what Cindy was picking up from the guides, the 2 for delivering, virility, dwindling for delivering, that this is a reset, and this is a granting thanks to the gods that humanity will be able to repopulate the planet again. And that, again, the Kundalini is the creative energy, and it's the procreative energy as well. So it's talking about fertility after a time when everything was wiped out for the most part. Cities wiped out, the vast majority of the population wiped out, as we see a depiction of a monkey being that, are they recalling Hanuman type beings there? It's interesting. There's some more interpretations of the stelae, giving thanks to the gods, basically, that humanity will be able to repopulate and once again be fertile on the planet. After, if we take it literally from the Sumerian stories, after Enlil and some of the gods wiped out humanity in the first place with that major flood event. So I find it interesting, and what I also find really interesting is skull fragments with carved long deliberate lines found at Göbekli Tepe. Not just carved long linear lines, but what looks to be operating on brains. What? Who? What? Were they practicing some form of modern medicine or more modern medicine? Now, they will say that some skulls appear to have been drilled into and operated on after death because there's no sign of any sort of healing that happened with the skull. There's also a lot of decapitated heads that are found. Now, what's going on there? Well, we do know, again, that a lot of the reason for some of these wars that we see is to destroy all the evidence of humanity's past. And we will find decapitated heads off of statues all over the world, in fact. And many statues have been purposely destroyed. Many representations of scenes that the control system doesn't want seen have been destroyed throughout countless never-ending wars. War does many, many things. It certainly does, and it does wipe away the past and blast it to bits. But here we go. Modified human crania from Göbekli Tepe provide evidence for a new form of Neolithic skull cult. Were they worshipping skulls? Why did they take the skulls? It appears that in some cases they actually took all the flesh and the muscles off the skulls and saved the skulls. Now we're talking about Predator. It sounds like Predator saving trophies. This is really, really weird. But what Cindy got when she was looking at this situation was a very interesting picture.
When he was showing me those skulls, I was picking up that, yes, some were after death, but some were before death. So it was both. And what this is learning and teaching how to work on the human body, teaching those who are interested, taking them from the society that was rebuilt and teaching them how to do surgery. So the energy that I got off these beings, but they were probably called gods because they have more abilities and they can do strange things that others can't. So they probably got like a godlike title. These beings came here to teach more of a modern way of living, the modern way that we see here and today. Bringing about the information that humanity needs to grow and to thrive. And I pick up the positive side of this. There's positive and negative to everything. We need that circuitry in life. This is the positive side of things. And I think so many of us that are connected on this channel, those that we work with, those that we are helping, we are in a huge soul stream. And I think many of us come from this area here, and we are waking up, we are remembering who we are, and that's the most important thing that you can do when it comes to spirituality. It's all about remembering. So this was very triggering when the information was going through at this time. I'll get in more information later when it's time. I get it in and I tell you guys so that we can paint a better picture, and then you guys take whatever information works for you and you paint your own picture. Very important, because we have a lot coming in from the media that only they want us to know.
Yeah, again, they want to give us this idea that these discoveries come slowly, but the reality is there are, again, myths and legends all around the entirety of the world, every culture that speaks of these beings that teach humans. They teach humans all sorts of things, whether you're looking at the Book of Enoch, or whether you're looking into Chinese mythology, Sumerian, Native American, all over the world. It's the same story over and over again. Beings come from the sky, and they teach us all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. You know, and if you read some scripture, they make it out that that's a bad thing, you know, that these are not good beings who are teaching humanity, but these beings are those that came here to bring a benevolent nature to humanity, to help us grow and help us thrive. And we all have the option of which direction we want to take this energy. Are we going to use our energy to heal and go toward the light and tie ourselves into that crystalline energy that is rising up, up, up? Or are we going to go the other direction? You know, it takes two. It takes duality to make things move forward.
So here you have from Smithsonian Magazine, which again, the Smithsonian has eradicated so much evidence of the reality of giants and different beings. If you just take it from the Bible, you're going to think all giants are bad. Well, there were good, bad, and everything in between. Just like we have in human society today. You see all sorts of different people with different motives. It's the same thing we're going to find with extraterrestrials and inner Earth beings as well. Here, 1,000 years ago, patients survived brain surgery, but they had to live with huge holes in their heads. The practice finally came to an end when the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, decided to make it illegal. Well, again, when you look at the European expansion with the explorers, mostly coming from Spain, Portugal, England, and other European countries. Again, this is another tangent that I'm still working on piecing together, which comes with the original Aryan invasion theory, because there's something here that's again tied to our history that's maybe been overlooked. As you look at this skull, a 900-year-old skull from Peru, whose former owner underwent brain surgery. 900 years. Now, you know, the picture we're giving is of ignorant savages, even in the 1700s, etc., in 1800s, in 1900s. 900 years ago, they're doing brain surgery. Our history is not what we think. No, they're constantly revising our history. And, you know, here you have a team that unearthed 32 skulls that exhibited evidence of 45 separate procedures. All the skulls belonged to men. It was forbidden to perform the surgery on women and children. Isn't that curious? The practice first began to emerge in the region around 200 to 600 AD. What? Yeah, Peruvian doctors had evolved their procedures, sometimes using a drill, other times using a cutting or scraping tool. They often practice their technique on the dead, just like medical students do today. And this is why in that initial article we were quoting, and there was a video that I saw a larger channel talking about how this was only done on the dead for some sort of ritual reason. No, they were practicing medicine like our our doctors would practice today. They're practicing on dead first, and then when you get to a certain level of skill, then you practice on the living. Unfortunately, practice is what some people only do. Elongated heads were a mark of elite status in an ancient Peruvian society. Now, this is out of Peru where we find these skulls. Yes, some of them are elongated on purpose. We find elongated skulls in other areas as well, Africa. We also find them over in the Black Sea area. We've talked about this. There have been so many of these found. Now, some of them are normal human-sized skulls that have been elongated on purpose. Why? Because, again, this was what the elite looked like. The elite had elongated skulls, but their skulls weren't the same as Homo sapiens sapiens. They had larger cranial mass. Their foramen magnum, which is where the spinal cord goes, is in a different place. The actual plates in the skull don't match up with Homo sapiens sapiens plates, and in fact, even DNA evidence has shown that is a different branch. It's a different branch, and it's on the patriarchal side. This is how the last three. This is the third. All these videos really tie in together. 3,500 years ago, where? Brain surgery. In Israel, in Levant. Yes. Again, why? And this is something that I know probably tweaks people of a fundamentalist viewpoint. Why did the Israelites wipe out the Canaanites? Because they were wiping out the evidence of a past civilization. This is exactly what it was. It was completely eradicating any sort of history that we could really utilize to derive the reality of the world situation that we're in, which is that we are being controlled by non-humanoid beings. Well, they are hominids, but they are not like us, and that they have higher technology. And there's many different groups. This is the reality. There are many different groups of ETs. This galaxy is teeming with life. And the Bhāgavata Purāṇa speaks of that. And so many other myths speak of that. So here again, you have back between 1550 and 1450 BC, you see they're operating on people's skulls. Now, this is before the invasion of Moses didn't really make it, but if we look to the book of Joshua, this is before those happenings. So these people had higher technology, they had advanced understanding of things, and they were wiped out. They were wiped out by those that ended up forming the Abrahamic religions, because they had to give us a revised history. They couldn't have us understanding that we've had help from other ETs in the past. They want to wipe out the evidence of the ETs that were more benevolent with humanity. They really want to wipe that clean. In fact, Hippocrates described many operations on the brain during ancient Greek times. Now, they say they hadn't found evidence, but they, until they uncovered it on Crete and some other locations going back to about 200 BC that showed evidence again of brain surgery. So as we see, this is something that's again, it was going on all around us. Now, why did the ancients live in these stone structures? Why weren't they building metal skyscrapers and all? Because they still understood that we're to live in a harmonious way with the planet. We're not to poison and pollute it, because that's poisoning and polluting our own bodies. If we poison and pollute the environment, we're going to have lower life expectancy and harder lives. We're going to have more sickness and illness. We're going to be harming others, incurring karmic debt. They understood all this. This is why they used technology wisely and lived in harmony instead of choosing to do what the system does now. Because the goal of the system now is for humans to live a very short, unproductive life, and one that doesn't have understanding of our own potential. So the DNA testing that was done on some of these individuals with larger cranial capacity in a different location of the foramen magnum shows they're not Homo sapiens sapiens. They're something else. Yes, they are something else. So, I mean, we have all the evidence we need. It's all right there again. They'll say there's no evidence of selection. Fraud. There's no evidence of anything going wrong with the cure for the you-know-what. And there's no evidence of ETs. We've never found a missing link. Yeah, the evidence has always been right around us, right in our face. There's a connection, too, that we've talked about between Peru and the Black Sea. I mean, we're on opposite sides of the planet. How did the same DNA end up on opposite sides of the planet? Because they could fly there. It's just that simple. They could fly there. The technology was there in those days. You know, you could hitch a ride with the gods. Hey, Enoch and Elijah did. This is part of the great reveal. And it's spoken of openly in other mythos.
You know, the mainstream, there's a lot of people who put out a lot of information, but what I've noticed is the information is always coming out of some other book, you know, some other book that's part of the mainstream. So people just go over those scriptures, or they go over that information and they give, you know, what their ideas of it are. And I kind of like our information because we reach into the energy and we pull this information out and we give it to you guys, not from a book that someone else read. I mean, this is time to break the mold. And as long as we keep just looking in books that somebody else wrote, we're not going to be able to break the mold and get through to the truth, because the truth is controlled by those who control the media. And we all know exactly who that is. This is a time of remembering. Remember who you are.
Remember who you are, and remember who taught us in the past. And, you know, the sad reality is the souls of many individuals incarnate right now are some of the souls that incarnated the bodies with these elongated skulls. You know, they were wiping out other branches of humans that were a threat to the system. Plain and simple. What you're seeing that going on today, it's the same thing. We're watching this. Now, this is talking about some of the fables and legends in the Far East. And what do we see again? We see the same things. We see the same stories. We see Dayu rebuilds the earth after a great cataclysm. Yes, what happens? Well, these gods come down and they help to restore society. They teach humans. They're amongst us. They walk amongst us. They guide us. They teach us. They show us how to grow foods. They show us how to cultivate. They teach us some of the science. They teach us how the universe works, etc., etc. And some of these beings are humanoid. Some of them are what we would call Nagas, serpentine. And again, the Nagas are not the Draco. They are different. The Nagas, while they may not be so warm and fuzzy and all, they are wise. Be wise like a serpent. This is why that is stated, because they were actually on the planet before Homo sapiens were on the planet, and they are pretty intelligent beings with a much better understanding of how the universe works than Homo sapiens. And a more ancient race. But again, they're to be respected, just like you wouldn't walk up to a water buffalo and just kick it. It wouldn't be a good idea to go and tick off a crocodile or an elephant, or, again, approach with caution and show respect. The other thing you see is demigods. You see that humans do have different lineages. And yes, absolutely. Humans used to live much, much longer than we do now. And again, they are ever shortening our lives. But we are on upswing naturally. So again, stay out of the system. Do not get pulled into that Rockefeller type MEDICNE. You'll be okay, because again, everything in nature is all about harmony and balance. And when there is dis-ease in the body, it's just that, it's dis-ease. And the solution is to be found in nature. And often the solution is simply take time to let the body rest and purge. We need to detox constantly again. And these are also things that they were teaching humans. So again, not all extraterrestrials and not all inner earth or beings that live in the sea are evil or good. It's always a mix, but we see these same legends. And so we haven't delved down into the Chinese myths as much as maybe some of the other ones of the world, but you see the same stories. They're all there in China, in Japan. Here you have Fuxi, who looks really, really pleasant, playing some sort of lute or something, teaches the people. You have 10 legendary kings or gods who guided the people through their prehistoric beginnings. They were demigods, half god, half human. Now, this doesn't talk about fallen angels in that perspective. No, because in reality, again, just like with the word Lucifer is a mistranslation, it's a mistranslation. Thinking that these are fallen angels, it's really, you could say they're fallen messengers, because that's what the original word translates to. But if you go and you compare and you look at all the global myths, start studying the mythos from all around the world, you'll see there's commonality that they all agree in. And, he taught humans how to cook, how to write, many different skills, even hunting, fishing, fortune telling. Many myths depict him as having the body of a human, while others depict him as having the head of a human and the body of a snake. Now, that would be Naga-like. And in many stories, he is regarded as the husband of Nuwa, and they are creators of civilization. Many of these beings are given credit for creating civilization. Well, the reality is, again, these beings visited different tribes that were coming up and looking out cautiously and terrified cataclysm was coming again from the sky. And so slowly emerging from the caves, slowly emerging from the different places that they found safety and refuge after the cataclysm, and they started to rebuild things. And different extraterrestrials came down, different extraterrestrials in different areas, and they helped us. And when you look to Mother Shipton and the legend of Mother Shipton, which we've talked about before too, it talks about this time period, and after this time period, a silver ship descends from the sky, and strange beings come out and teach us how to restart yet again. This happens time and time and time again.
And I think we're at a point right now where everyone's kind of on the edge of their seats, because they're wondering, when is the great reset going to happen? Is it going to happen now? Are these beings going to come back? Is it going to happen in my lifetime? I do see something like the reset happening, but are we going to be here this lifetime to see these beings actually come from the sky to Earth to reteach us? I don't know. It feels a little bit premature, but I don't think it's out of the question.
Well, some of the stuff that you've gotten when you're under full trance, you might not remember, but yes, I think there are some of us that are alive now that will absolutely see these beings. I think if you could make it to like 2035-ish, you will absolutely have seen or heard of others that have seen the beings come from the sky. Absolutely. I mean, I think for sure they're getting ready to introduce us to those Anunnaki. But though, no, they're not the same. No, when we're talking about the benevolent beings, we also saw that around 2035-ish, the ones that don't go into the cities because the Anunnaki have come here directly and are back on Earth with their feet on Earth, and they're starting to rule over the humans that are going to stay in the system because of whatever galactic agreements there are. Others from others groups will be allowed to come openly. And there are going to be beings that are going to appear to us as very small humans. They're going to appear to us that way to make us feel comfortable. But, their real appearance will be different, but they don't want to scare us. So they're going to look more like the size of kids to be non-intimidating. But they will teach us the ways of the universe, and they will teach us things that will enlighten us. And so they will be here in the open too. So, how many people are going to survive the next 10 years is the question. And we don't know. I think that is totally, it's up for change. It's completely part of, how many people can we awaken? How much can we expose the system for what it is and get humanity to stop destroying humanity? I think, it doesn't have to be as dire as the numbers that they put out there of like 500 million to 1 billion as far as the control system. In fact, it could probably be much, much better than that survive these times if people awaken quick enough.
I think we really need to hone in on our children, because it's our children who are going to be carrying these energies with them into a new earth, into a new world. And one thing I learned parenting is that children, they don't necessarily listen to what you say. I know that's not a big shocker, but they do watch what you do. So your actions with your children are very important right now. How you live, how you behave, are you walking the walk? Kids are watching their parents. So I think that's where we're at. Words are actually these days, they're chaos, spelling. It's all about creating chaos, but actions carry a lot of weight.
So this is a book that we do have, and there's others that we have. This is Bhakti Yoga, Tales and Teachings from the Bhāgavata Purāṇa. And it's just one, but the Bhāgavata Purāṇa is just fascinating. I mean, such good stuff. And again, we have to re-look at it as I think that there's so incredibly much to be learned through the Vedic and Hindu texts. Yet, are they maybe a little distorted too? Yeah, I don't think anything is not distorted. Especially when things are verbally given and then they're not written down for so long. And then when they are written down, well, hey, look to the Abrahamic tradition. You have a whole set of priestly caste that their whole job is to interpret and constantly reinterpret these scriptures. They reinterpret the scriptures. Yeah, I saw one video, I forget who it was, and was in a big channel and was talking about something like 1,500 words that were changed, I should say, in the Bible that we know of, where their translations were changed from the original. Yeah, again, there is the Masoretic text that is constantly being rewritten and revised. It's just what they do. And so, again, when you have people make a statement that could not be more incorrect, saying the Bible is perfect and there's not a single error in the Bible, that's like saying every single politician in D.C. is a saint. Yeah. You couldn't be any farther from the truth. And it's going to be the same thing with anything that's in writing. There's nothing perfect in writing. The best you can do is build your discernment and feel for yourself. Feel into a situation. We were talking about Star Wars, and it's the same thing. The left side of the brain can memorize all sorts of things, but will you be memorizing the truth? You got to feel into it. But according to the Bhāgavata Purāṇa, the Devas, who are the good guys, so to speak, were once defeated by the Asuras, who are the bad guys. The Devas are equated with benevolent beings, the Asuras with malevolent. And they sought the refuge of a king named Muchukunda, described to be a great warrior and a pious man. King Muchukunda granted the Devas shelter until they rallied themselves under Kartikaya, son of Shiva. And again, you have to recognize too, when we have a lot of these references, like from our perspective, what we've understood, like when you say Krishna is an incarnation of Vishnu, and it's that person is in alignment with the higher vibrational frequencies given off by the deified beings. So Kartikaya, son of Shiva, would be basically a reference to, in my opinion, more of who is this person as far as, what makes this person their unique self, and where are they aligned with. So you might say, with the original concept of creation and all. So after their triumph, the Devas and their king, Indra, now they're not under the king Indra. So what that's saying is the Devas and their king Indra. So it's saying that Indra is the king who is in alignment with the natural order of things. And so I think that's important to understand too. Express their gratitude to the king for sacrificing his privileged position on earth to travel to Svarga to protect them. Svarga is a different world. That's right there. Here you go. See, when you look to these books, they openly talk about lokas, other lokas. Loka is a word that means world, and there's other lokas out there. And we know there's Krishna's loka is over there, and so-and-so's loka is over there. Yes, some of these lokas are in other dimensions, but some of them are also in this dimension in a specific part of the sky. These are other worlds. So after their triumph, the Devas and their king Indra expressed the gratitude for the king for sacrificing his privileged position on earth to travel to Svarga to protect them. They revealed to him that an entire age had passed on earth, with the Treta Yuga having now transitioned to Dwapara. So he was gone. In other words, this king that helped the Devas was taken. You might view it as a positive type of abduction. And while he was gone from Earth, we went all the way from the Silver Age into the Bronze Age. He was gone for thousands of years. Everybody he knew was dead. This is exactly what science says would happen if you were traveling away at like the speed of light, going to somewhere else. This is in this book. This is in, again, the Bhāgavata Purāṇa, which is, for me, it's one of the best books out there. I think it's just incredible what we see. But there are many Puranas. There are many of these books that talk openly about these beings, these extraterrestrial and often interdimensional capable beings. And some of these beings can literally shift their resonance frequencies so that they're here and they're gone. Kind of like Beam Me Up Scotty again, whether that is a Mandela effect or not, and it was never Beam Me Up Scotty, I'm not sure. But anyway, he's gone, and the age goes from the Silver Age to the Bronze Age when they bring him back. So everybody he knows is dead. So they gave him a boon of his choice for his services, with the exception of moksha, which is liberation. Moksha is understanding the oneness of all things when we no longer take an isolated existence, I guess we could say, what appears to be an isolated existence, and recognize that we're all part of the one. So they couldn't grant moksha, but anything else. So struck with grief upon learning that his family was no longer alive and feeling exhausted after all the battles, he asked the devas for the boon of undisturbed sleep with the provision that anyone who dared to disturb it would immediately be reduced to ashes. The boon was granted, and the king commenced his sleep in a cave. And there's a lot more to this story and other stories as well in this book. But the thing I wanted to get across is how it clearly says that if you are going up and off of the earth, and we can imagine the types of speeds that they would be able to travel with, and then coming back, we would have that experience of everything that we knew is in a different time period. And there's so much of this science that are hidden in these books, but for those that are familiar with the stories, they're not hidden.
Right. And, moksha is such a blessing if you are able to reach that, if that's one of your purposes here on earth. And it's interesting enough, in astrology, it does, under your nakshatra or the star that you were born, there is, your purpose. What are you here to achieve? And many times it is moksha. And, the best I can really relate that to is those who have experienced a near-death experience. They get to feel moksha. They get to discover that, if you're not an ascended master, if you're not, a guru of sorts, that's the other way you can experience this moksha, which is, and you'll hear from people who talk about NDEs, that overall loving type of energy that they're received, and suddenly they know that everything is one. And it's really kind of quite painful for some to come back into the body, but they do it anyway because they have a purpose. It's not time for them to go. But those people are usually changed forever because they get to experience this. And I've seen that in a very positive way many times. Most of the time it is for a positive.
As we look at Guanyin, 1,000-handed Guanyin, again, Guanyin is one of those beings that Cindy was just talking about. And if you need to tap into love and compassion and understanding, you can do her a mantra, absolutely, to connect with her. And why do a mantra? Because the reality is we are all part of one, and we can't connect to them anytime we want to. And all we simply have to do is just call out. So when you use a mantra, even if you can't hear them respond, they are responding. That's the bottom line. They will hear you, and they will respond. And so if you need to develop more compassion in your life, maybe life has made it so you have a little edge. It's obviously easy to understand that. I've been calling on Kuan Yin every day because I want to always cultivate the compassion, because sometimes I get very irritated doing the news and I hate what the system's doing, and I don't want to become so enmeshed in that distaste and for the system and the hatred of the system that the hatred consumes us. This is again one of the things that's taught to us by these beings. We can see all the negativity and all the darkness that the system that we are in perpetrates on humanity. We must not become like them. We escape it by rising above.
Indeed,
guys. And so, share a little love.
Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.